Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. Good to have you in on a Tuesday. It's 6:30. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing on this Tuesday? And so far, how has been your holiday break? We just came off of Christmas. New Year's around the corner. How's your holiday break been so far?
Been great so far. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody.
New Year, 2024, things are going to change. We're hinting it for Friday's show. Very, very special show on Friday. Things are changing. We're making moves. What a great weekend for sports. Knicks finally ended a 9-game skid against the Bucks. The Patriots with an upset win over the Broncos. The Ravens, which we'll talk about. I'm wearing purple if you're watching on YouTube for this specific reason. Ravens dominated the 49ers. Brock Purdy, 4 interceptions. We'll talk about that.
Very surprising.
Celtics beat the Lakers in a classic matchup between those two historic franchises.
Yeah, 6 football games in 2 days.
Love
Right?
it.
Yeah. Sunday, 3 games, and Monday, 3 games.
Hey, more football, a lot of sports. I'm all for it. I enjoy sports thoroughly.
I got this hat for Christmas.
At St. John's,
very nice.
My college. There you go. Let's jump into the show and let's jump into our first topic here, which is indeed the 49ers versus the Baltimore Ravens. So Lamar Jackson and the Ravens were able to actually upset the 49ers in a 33-19 victory. Lamar Jackson, 297 total yards with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. On the other hand, Brock Purdy, yikes, 255 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a pretty ugly game for the promised child, I would say. This guy is beloved MVP candidate, dropped down now to tied for 4th. It's not looking pretty right now for Brock Purdy, while Lamar Jackson, we'll talk about later, has jumped to 1st in the MVP race. You picked the 49ers to win. You did not have a lot of faith in Lamar to get it done on Christmas night. I want to know, how surprised were you that the 49ers completely fell apart against the Baltimore Ravens?
Very. I was very surprised. I think, Brock Purdy's 4 interceptions, 2 of them were balls tipped up in the air. But one of them he threw to the guy. He shouldn't have thrown it to him. It was too close. There was no separation. Ball bounced up in the air and it got intercepted. I mean, he did not play well. Obviously, the first interception was just I don't know where he was throwing it. He threw it right to the guy in the end zone. Here it is, right here. Look at this, right to him. I don't know. He must not have seen him, but and that one, tipped up in the air. Touchdown. Not a touchdown, but a tip for interception. And then this one, flags all over the place. He should have just thrown it away. And tipped up in the air again. There it is. Another interception. Unbelievable. And then this one he threw right to the guy too. That was 2 really bad interceptions. The other 2 were tips. Then Darnold came in and he managed to throw an interception too. He did get a touchdown. He scored a touchdown. I think they've been wanting to see what Darnold could do, and I don't think I never had much faith in him, particularly watching him play for the Jets, then for the Panthers, now with the 49ers. I don't think he's going to take anybody to the promised land. And I don't think you can do much about Brock Purdy. He's your starting quarterback. You got to stick with him. He's had a pretty decent year. I don't think he's close to being. I'm surprised he's in the top 4 for MVP now. I mean, he had a rough stretch there a while back for 3 games. Then he bounced back and played great. Then last night he played terrible. So I don't think he has any hope of being the MVP. I really think Lamar's going to get it now.
Well, Lamar is the favorite to win MVP.
Lamarvelous, as you say.
Yeah, Lamarvelous performance, as I have in the lower third down there. Since I picked the Ravens to win, I can't say I'm not surprised. I am surprised about how poorly that Brock Purdy performed, because I thought this would be a high-scoring game. I think I said, was it 35-30, 38-35, some crazy number like that, because I thought the defenses wouldn't be as consistent against the high-powered offenses that each of these teams possesses. But I will say this. This game showed 2 things that I've been discussing. When things get rough, Brock Purdy cannot come back from any sort of adversity. He just can't. And most of his yards were in garbage time, when the game was far out of reach for anything to happen, for any real comeback to happen. And then we also saw something that I've also been saying that people have disagreed with extensively. The most important player on the 49ers is not the quarterback. While, yes, the quarterback is the most important position, when we talk about value, we saw it last night. Brock Purdy was losing the 49ers that game. CMC, on that only touchdown drive that Brock Purdy drove them down to, or rather, just was the quarterback for those drives, Christian McCaffrey had 65 out of the 67 yards on Brock Purdy's only touchdown drive. That's because Christian McCaffrey is the soul of this offense. And then and even the announcers were saying it, these guys are wide open. So it's easy to make those kinds of throws. Now, we're not NFL players. I'm not an NFL player. I'm sure a lot of you out there are also not NFL players. However, when it comes to someone who makes it into the NFL, when you show a guy on TV like a Deebo Samuel or a George Kittle, and you can't even see them in your TV screen, they're pretty wide open. I'm pretty sure any one of us can make that throw. And even the announcers were saying how wide open these receivers were. Until Lamar Jackson came up big when he needed to. The defense played a massive role in this win. Pick after pick after pick after pick. And then Lamar Jackson capitalized on each of those turnovers. Because yes, while the defense helped, on the offensive side, if the defense doesn't score a pick six or a fumble recovery touchdown, it's up to the offense to put up points, and Lamar Jackson showed why he is the MVP. Tremendous plays all around. A 3rd and 16 play, he ran it for like 31 yards. A bait from Dre Greenlaw. He looks like he's about to run. Gus Edwards goes up the middle. A simple pass to Gus Edwards. He runs it for 41 yards. It's plays like that that make Lamar Jackson separate and more valuable than really anybody else. Because he leads his team in rushing most of the time. He's obviously the quarterback, so he's the leading passer. The only thing he can't do is throw it to himself and become his own leading receiver. So what I'm taking a look at this game is, I kind of expected, I picked the Ravens to win. Because I thought Lamar Jackson, with his ability, he can get it done. This is why he's so dangerous. The 49ers were not expecting this. Brock Purdy, when he played poorly, I was waiting because he was a huge favorite. It was minus 200 to Lamar's plus 500. I was waiting for what people are telling me. Waiting for that moment. How his team does not carry him, or rather, really help him out to get victories. That's what I was waiting for. And I kept waiting, and I kept waiting, and I kept waiting. And what I saw was simple pass, 5 yards. Interception. Big time interception. That first interception, which I'll show again, this was basically in the red zone. Yeah. Was it the 15-yard line? Throws it right to the guy. Didn't check on his right side, just followed the receiver straight with his eyes, and it led to an interception. So when it comes to this Brock Purdy situation, he cannot win MVP anymore this year. Because the leader right now in a head-to-head matchup outplayed him to the nth degree. There is no question now. And we're going to talk about later who really deserves MVP and all this. But two questions were answered yesterday. CMC, when things look rough for the rest of the offense, there is one shining light, one glimmer of hope, and that's number 23 in the backfield. And it's also that Brock Purdy, when the system fails you, can you come out of that? Because the really good quarterbacks can. And we've seen now several times where if things are not going as planned, C.J. Stroud, we've already seen him. When things get dire, because he plays for the Texans, and the Texans historically have not been a tremendous team, C.J. Stroud can come back and in 42 seconds led a 92-yard game-winning drive against the Buccaneers. Brock Purdy can't do that. We haven't seen him do that. In nearly 180 minutes when he's trailing, the numbers do not look good. Do not look good. And that's where I'm going to bring you in again. Because this game, for me, was very eye-opening. I don't know if it was for you. But we saw a lot.
I was surprised that Brock Purdy played so poorly.
Right. Well, why, though? Because
he's played well. Because he's been playing well recently. I think, he had the 3-game stretch where he didn't play so well. Other players were hurt. But after that, he was making some big plays, and he looked really good out there. He looked very composed. Very comfortable, having time to throw, hitting his receivers, very accurate passing, high passer rating, high completion percentage, lots of yards. He was leading for the MVP. I mean, I say more. Everybody else thought so too.
It was basically unanimous. Minus 200 to plus 500.
Yeah, but that completely changed last night. I think Lamar Jackson is now the MVP leader, and there's only 2 games to go. I really think he's going to get it.
Well, I'll also say this. If you take a look at the roster, the difference between the amount of talent, you look on the 49ers, they can't miss on basically anything. You take a look at the Ravens; they're all banged up most of the time. Like Lamar's down to like third running back.
The San Francisco got beat up during this game. Their offensive line, they lost 2 of their players, right? They lost their all-pro offensive lineman.
Trent Williams, I don't think
Trent
was hurt.
Williams, he was out. He was on the sidelines there in the second half. And then another guy got hurt near the end, too. Yeah.
And I also found it interesting that the game plan shifted because this team, the yards per attempt, people love to talk about, historical yards per attempt. They played very conservative in that second half. Very, very conservative. Short passing, no over-the-top throws. The Ravens basically eliminated that, and we needed to see Brock Purdy, scrap, 5 yards, 6 yards, 3 yards, try to get something going, and it just led to nowhere. The running game wasn't that great, but it's CMC, so he can make something out of essentially nothing because he is that type of guy. But there was really no effective running game, so it was really up to Brock Purdy to carry his offense, and he couldn't get it done. And I think right now the 49ers I think they were plus 220 to win the Super Bowl. They took a tiny hit at plus 240 now, which makes no sense to me. The Ravens, I think, are plus 400. I don't know do you think that the Super Bowl odds should be flipped now for both the Ravens and the 49ers? Because right now the 49ers are still decent favorites.
Earlier I thought we were picking our teams for the playoffs in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But I was a little premature, and I was picking the Ravens a while back. I'd since kind of changed. Actually, I've changed twice. I thought the Eagles were the team for a while there.
Right.
Now I don't think so. They lost 3 in a row. They kind of just barely beat the Giants, right?
Yeah.
The Giants were driving for a tying score there last night. And so and then I thought the San Francisco was the team, right? So now I think it's I'm back to the Ravens.
You're going to your
I think the Ravens,
pick.
they really impressed me last night. They played very well. The defense looked great.
Yeah.
They're very well coached. Lamar Jackson is amazing. I mean, watching him out there, they look like they have him bottled up. He jukes one way, runs the other way, runs around a couple of players, runs down the middle, over to the side, still behind the line of scrimmage, throws a pass, complete. Really amazing. I was very impressed with him. I see why he's the leader now, with a little bit of distance there too. I think that it looks like the guy that, unless something terrible happens to him in the last 2 games here, I don't think anybody else is going to, unless Christian McCaffrey has 7 or 8 touchdowns in the last 2 games. I think Lamar's got it.
Yeah, I would say right now Lamar, deserves to be a decently heavy MVP favorite.
And then the Ravens, right, hanging in there to get Lamar Jackson back with them.
Yeah.
Smart move on their part.
But
very smart move. They got their money's worth this year.
Very rough
He's
card,
played
though.
very well in December, right? Last 2 years he's been hurt in December.
Yeah, we haven't seen him.
He's healthy this year. They may, they blocked up a playoff spot, right? But they haven't got the number 1.
Correct.
They haven't got number 1.
They haven't secured the number 1 seed yet.
If they win this week, they get that?
Yeah.
So if they do that, they ought to rest him in the last game, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You might want to do that.
Who are their last 2 games against?
The Ravens in the last 2 games of the season, they're 12-3 right now. They play Miami and Pittsburgh.
Well,
both at home, by the way. Both at home. So
Miami's
you have a little bit of a home trip, and then you have that. If they get the number 1 seed, you have that bye.
Is Miami at home or on the road?
The last 2 games are at home.
At home, okay.
So you could be at home basically the rest of the season. If you think about it, besides
until
the Super Bowl,
yeah,
which is in Las Vegas.
Well, you know what? It's theirs to lose now. I mean, they're set up perfectly, right?
Absolutely,
they're set up perfectly. They can play at home all the way through the rest of the season, through the playoffs, just to get to the Super Bowl. They'll have a home game for the AFC Championship if they get that far.
And
therein lies the question: Lamar in the playoffs, right?
Right.
He hasn't had good success in the playoffs yet. This is his year.
And
this is his year.
If I'm thinking about it, there's really only one team I trust in the AFC, and that's the Ravens. I mean, this is going to sound ridiculous. The Browns may be number 2 because they have a great defense, and Joe Flacco is playing like 2012 playoff Joe Flacco right now. Amari Cooper had 65 yards and 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, he's made the players around him much better, right?
He's been incredible this season so far. So maybe them, because their defense also has been very consistent this season. So maybe the Browns will be on number 2. The Dolphins, I think, are right there as well. I think because with the win over the Cowboys, which we'll talk about.
I have my doubts about the Dolphins.
I do too, but with the win over the Cowboys, they finally beat a team over 500. So we'll
A little
talk
late
about
in the
that.
season to be doing that, right?
Hey, the Cowboys are still struggling
Better
with that.
late than another. That was a close game. We're going to
It was.
talk about
We're
it.
going to talk
minutes,
about that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this game though. So Bailey Zappe was able to upset the Denver Broncos with a Chad Ryland 56-yard game-winning field goal. He didn't have a great game, but he made the field goal when it mattered. Bailey Zappe gets his second win of the season. His first win was over the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Patriots are now go from the second overall pick down all the way to the fourth overall pick. Not great for people who are hoping for the Patriot future quarterback out there, because you know what? Bailey Zappe's been playing okay. They scored 20 points in the third quarter. I want to know how satisfying for you was this win over Denver?
Very exciting game. Fun game to watch. Patriots playing spoiler. Really nothing to play for. Belichick getting them fired up for the game. They all were out there. They were playing to win. There was no doubt about it, and they played very well. The defense especially. The Broncos really didn't get anything going on offense until the fourth quarter when they scored 2 touchdowns and got the 2-pointer twice to tie the game. I think Belichick's been he's been criticized for his drafting, but Demario Douglas had a very big game in this game. 74 yards. He had a spectacular 41-yard catch where he was laid out prone there and grabbed the ball. That was a great catch. And also Mate Mapu, he forced a fumble on a kickoff there. He poked the ball out, and it was right by the goal line. Davis fell on the ball for a touchdown. And Ryland, even though he was terrible in the beginning there, he kicked a 56-yard game-winning field goal with 7 seconds left. It went right down the middle. It would have been good from 65 yards.
I don't know.
I think so. It was
way
up there. It was way up there, Nate. It was high up when it went through the goalpost. I think it would have been good from much further out. So the rookies came up big, and there were a lot of players hurt in this game that didn't play in this game. Smith-Schuster was out. Another wide receiver was out.
What, Devontae Parker?
Devontae Parker played, and he played well.
Booty.
Booty. No, Booty was there. He was in there.
For a couple plays.
It was another offensive player was out that didn't play.
Hunter Henry.
Oh, Hunter Henry.
Hunter
Henry was out,
yeah.
and Hunter Henry's been big for them. So
Especially with
it looked
Zappe.
like it was going to be tough on offense for them, but Zappe played well. He had good stats. He played much better in the second half. In the games that he's been playing, he's pretty good in the first half, and then the second half he's not good. But the other night, he was quite good in the second half. The defense was good. 42% pressures on defense, pressure rate on defense. Barmore with 3 sacks. Keon White played well. He's the other rookie that played well. Quarterback hit, run stuff, batted pass, not bad.
Yeah.
So for somebody who can't draft,
offense. Offense. I told
Demario
you
Douglas,
I will give you defense.
Demario Douglas. Generally
that is a good pick. Pick.
How many teams draft multiple good offensive players in one draft? It's not very often. How many times do you see 2 really good rookies on offense for a team in a season? Not very often. I mean, Demario Douglas.
I haven't done the research.
Demario Douglas is a good pick. And he was a 4th-round pick.
Demario Douglas was a good pick.
Yeah.
However, I'll say this. There's another 4th-round pick named Chad Ryland, who, based on PFF, is the worst-graded kicker in the NFL.
He kicked the game winner the other night.
He did after missing an extra
point.
I
will say, I agree. He has not had a good season, but maybe this gives him the confidence so he can be more consistent.
Yeah, maybe. When I watched this game, it started off as I would hope, because I'm not looking for what'll happen in the next 2 years that I'll love. I'm saying, can we get a quarterback in 3 years to get us to the playoffs consistently, who's developed well and can keep leading us and maybe get us to a Super Bowl eventually? Last night, or rather Sunday night, when I saw that opening fumble by Bailey Zappe, I was like, okay, we may get the number 1 pick. We have an opportunity. And then in the first half, I still thought that because they were down 7-3. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Broncos need to reset themselves. Russell Wilson doesn't need to play terribly. Run the football, draw the clock out, and hope the Patriots keep making mistakes that they're prone to do this season. And they have 20 points in the third quarter, and that kind of is like, okay, yep. So the Patriots decide to win games. This right now, winning games right now, is pointless. Absolutely pointless. Because what's it going to do? Is it going to allow you to make the playoffs? No, you're already eliminated. Is it going to hopefully get some more draft capital for you in the sake of making your players look better to eventually trade them? Not really, because people are not going to look at one game and say, okay, I was thinking 5th round, now he's a 2nd rounder. No, they'll take a look at the season and be like, no, the Patriots have the 26th, to open the year, the 26th best ranked supporting cast. So for me, this does nothing but hurt you. Now, it may save Belichick's job if he wins next week, and I believe it's against the Bills next week, and then against the Jets in the final week of the season. That may save his job. But outside of that, if you keep winning, you're hurting your draft stock, hurting your future. You're hurting a lot. The only thing you're helping is your coach, who, let's be honest, seems a little bit out of touch for today's NFL. And so, yes, congratulations. The Patriots go from 3-11 to 4-11. But what does that do besides, it's more, well, yes, it is a victory. It's also just a moral victory. And honestly, if you take a little bit deeper look, it's kind of a moral loss.
I don't know. I think it's a moral victory, and it also showed what they can do on defense, right? I mean, if they get the players back next year that were hurt on defense, Gonzalez and Judon, and with the players that have developed this year, Keon White, Mac Wilson Sr., right, and Barmore.
Yep.
They're going to have their defense is going to be great. If they can just bring back the defense as it is and get those other guys healthy, they'll be even stronger. Right. And right now they have one of the best defenses in the league. There's no doubt about it.
No, and I'll say this well. Their defense has never been the problem. When I talk about Belichick and I criticize him, I always say,
the defense wasn't so good against the Saints, and it wasn't so good against Dallas, right?
I mean, those are Mac Jones shot him in the foot a couple times in each of those games, but overall they couldn't stop it. I'll agree, they couldn't stop much.
But since then, they've been one of the best defenses in the league.
Correct.
What they need is a few more pieces on offense, and whether we've been debating what they should do in the draft. I'm not so sure they should draft a quarterback. Maybe they should go out and get a free agent quarterback and bring somebody in, because it's going to take several years for a new quarterback to come up to speed. So maybe they should trade down, take a late round first pick, and pick up a couple picks in the second round, and try to get some more players on offense.
Right.
Maybe a free agent quarterback and a free agent number one receiver.
Well, and that's where the problem lies, and we discussed this. I forget if it was after the game, I believe, or it might have been the day after. The options for free agent quarterbacks, the best one may be Kirk Cousins, and then after that, it might be Ryan Tannehill. Not much to work with, but you could bring back Jacoby Brissett, who for the Commanders, Sam Howell recently has been playing terrible, and Brissett's the only guiding light there. You may bring him back. For who knows for what reason, I'm not entirely sure.
I wouldn't bring him back.
Where it gets to the wide receivers could be interesting, because I think the Bucs are going to work with Mike Evans to get him back there, because he worked extremely well with Baker Mayfield. You could sign Baker to a team-friendly deal because, yes, while he's played phenomenally this season, how big is his market compared to the draft class that's this year's? That's where I think Baker, the Bucs have the advantage there to sign him to maybe a $25 million a year contract for 3-4 years, keep a decent amount of that guarantee, keep him happy. But the options are not great. Mike Evans is probably your best one. OBJ probably won't want to sign with you. Curtis Samuel, maybe. Tyler Boyd, I doubt it. And then Kendrick Bourne may be the next best one, who I think shouldn't be a free agent next season. But based on the fact that he tore his ACL at the end of the year, at the middle of the year, on a contract year, Belichick won't like that. He'll probably, since he was so good with the Patriots, they'll let him go. Because that's what they did with Jacoby Myers. It was Mac Jones' security blanket, let him go. So Kendrick Bourne, Mac Jones' security blanket this year, they're going to let him go.
Well, we'll see. There may be some receivers out there that they might be able to trade for. And maybe they pick up a free agent receiver They did give the long-term deals, so 3-year deals to Parker and Smith, and I think that was kind of a mistake.
I don't know why they would sign Juju to $33 million a year.
Maybe he'll play better next year. He was poor this year, very poor.
Well, he's got to work on his injuries because his legs, apparently, we saw the report, before the season, his leg could explode, but his knee is, on the verge of exploding here.
Well, that's what they said in the media.
It was banged up. Yeah. He was out for a couple weeks, but...
I mean, maybe they, you mentioned the free agent quarterbacks. I think Jimmy G will be available.
Well, you need him by trade, then he wouldn't be a free agent unless Mark Davis is like, you know what, we're going to stick with Aiden O'Connell and maybe draft his replacement. So we're going to release him.
I mean, they got to have some question about Aiden O'Connell, the way he played on Sunday. Right?
Well, I think that was they got
on
the
Monday,
win.
actually yesterday. Yeah.
They got the win though.
They got the win, but still, he only had 62 yards passing for the whole game.
But they won.
They won, but it was more of the defense and the turnovers by Mahomes. The Chiefs beat themselves in that game.
Yeah, no, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was
We're
bad.
going to talk about that game, but I think the Patriots, it's a poor year. They had a very hard schedule. They got riddled with injuries. Despite that, they were in almost every game except for the Saints game and the Dallas game. I think maybe things are looking up for them a little bit. We'll see.
Right now, the mock drafts say LSU quarterback and Heisman winner Jaden Daniels goes to the Patriots at number 4. That's actually what I said if they were at the number 3 or 2 spot. Get Marvin Harrison, draft Jaden Daniels in the second round. Then he decided to win then he was great, won the Heisman. He's probably not going to be available in the second round.
Sometimes those Heisman winners don't play so well in the NFL.
That is true. The Heisman winning quarterbacks have not had the greatest of reputations in the NFL when it comes to performance. So maybe, but I think Jaden Daniels has a lot of talent, so he might be available for the Patriots. And in my wish, I say Patriots go out and get a quarterback. Because Bailey Zappe, I'll give him this. Mac Jones is broken. He may be decent on a team like the Eagles or the 49ers. Who knows? I'm not entirely sure, but he looks broken. But I do know what he was. And he was very good. He had a tremendous rookie season. He won't be on the Patriots. It hurts me to say that because I defended him. He won't be on the Patriots. He's not good right now. Mm-hmm. Bailey Zappe, very competent backup. Maybe one of the best backups in the NFL. But he's a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Because he's not... He doesn't have that mentality. He doesn't have a high motor.
I don't know. He hasn't had that much of an opportunity. I mean, we'll see how he does his last 2 games. I mean, if he goes out and beats Buffalo next week, mm-hmm. and the Jets, they got the Jets at home, so that's probably a game they're going to win. So we'll see. The last couple of games, then he'll have the preseason next year, and we'll see whether he can win the job or not.
Draft a quarterback. We can't be looking at 2 years
I think
of
the
time.
Patriots ought to be looking at
5 years, 10
I don't
years
think they
time.
should fire Belichick. I've always said that. I think they should stick with him. This has been an anomaly season with being in every game, pretty much having those injuries, having one of the toughest schedules. I say bring him back again next year, but maybe switch the offensive coordinator and go back to McDaniels if you could get him to come back. I think that would be a good move.
Go out and here's the thing. I'm fine with keeping Belichick as a head coach. Get him a GM. Demote him, basically, because he's the de facto GM.
He may not want to do that.
Exactly, and that's why I think Robert Kraft needs to put. By the way,
maybe get some help on the. Maybe they'll bring in a consultant or somebody to help him with the draft.
We're going to talk about this on Friday, I believe, but Belichick recently said that he doesn't know. He sort of accepted that his job is in limbo, basically. He doesn't know whether or not he's staying or not. So we're going to talk about that on Friday. That came out, I believe, yesterday or today. So there's a hint for one of Friday's topics. Let's get into our third topic here. So Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys fell to the Miami Dolphins. This was your pick. You picked the Dolphins to win, and you were right on this one. The Cowboys are now 3-5 on the road, and the Dolphins finally beat a team over 500, which was one of the question marks we had. Can they win without Tyreek, and can they beat a good team? They finally did it against the Dallas Cowboys. I want to know, what was your reaction to the Dolphins narrowly beating the Dallas Cowboys? Was it on Sunday, I believe?
A very good game. It was a very good game. I thought it was exciting and it was close. Both quarterbacks played well. Prescott, 20 of 32, 253 yards, 2 TDs, 108 passer rating. Tua, 24 of 37, 293, 1 TD, and 98 quarterback rating. So the quarterbacks didn't make mistakes. Total yards, Dallas 339, Miami 375. So it was pretty close on the yards for each team. The defenses, I guess they played okay. I mean, the running games, really, there wasn't much there in the running games. Mostert he had 46 yards. It looked like he had more than that when you watched the game, but he had 46 yards. The chain had 25 or so. But the Dolphins, they pounded the ball. They had some nice drives, some nice long drives. Dallas had a couple of nice long drives too. They had an 18-play drive. They went for it on fourth down, missed it, but there was a penalty, and they managed to get a passing TD to Cooks there. So it was really a very close game, back and forth, and the Dallas just couldn't stop Miami in that last drive. I mean, Miami marched right down the field, took a lot of time off the clock, and Dallas used all their timeouts, and Miami kept getting the first downs, and they had a little chip shot field goal to win the game. So it was a very good game, fun game to watch. I think it said more about Miami than it did about Dallas. Miami has not had much luck winning against good teams. They beat Dallas, and Dallas hasn't had much luck winning against good teams, particularly on the road, and they lost again.
Well, I'll say this about Miami. I agree with you. This said much more about them than it did about the Cowboys, because I'm about to bring up a graphic here. We already know what Dak and the Cowboys are on the road. This is Dak's stats on the road against winning teams. This is their would-be ranks. Completion percentage in the toilet, 62.7%, would rank 27th in the league. Passing yards per game, 228.5. That would rank 19th. Touchdown to interception ratio, 6-4, tied for 25th in the league, or would be tied for 25th. Yards per pass, 6.8, would be 25th in the league. His passer rating, 85.2, would be 23rd in the league. The Cowboys are bad on the road. And this offense, I mentioned it before. The defense gives up about a touchdown more. The offense scores basically half or near half the points that they score, except when they're at home.
But this game, I think it's more about Dallas's defense not coming out and really performing well than it was the offense. Right? The defense gave up that long drive at the end.
Right.
Dallas had the lead.
But
it was 20-19.
They held them to only.
All they had to do was stop them there, and they would have won the game, and they couldn't. So I think it was more the defense than it was the offense. The offense didn't make any mistakes. There were no turnovers. And I'm sorry. There was one turnover, and then that was the important one, right at the beginning of the game.
The opening drive. Yeah.
Opening drive. They got right down to the goal line there, and the fumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Cowboys are one of the only teams to still use a fullback.
That was big.
They're one of the only teams to still use a fullback. I mean, that position is basically being drawn out of the NFL.
Missed handoff there,
right?
And that hurt the Cowboys badly.
Big time.
Yeah.
But I actually, well, yes, I think that if you look at the score, that was the game right there. That was basically the game. But I want to talk about the play actually beforehand. It was on a Tony Pollard handoff, and I mentioned this a couple of times when we talked about the Cowboys. I do not love Tony Pollard as the feature back of the Cowboys. There was a play, I believe it was on the 2-yard line, the play right before the fumble, where they hand off to Pollard. He goes to the left. It looks like it's wide open. Pollard cuts to the right, gets tackled. He's 2 yards from the end zone. He gets tackled, so half his body's in the end zone, but the ball is on the 1-yard line. Because he's not that big. He's not a feature back. He's not an RB1. If Ezekiel Elliott, a lot of people like to bash on Zeke because they still think he's like the 4 or 5 years ago where he's 90 yards a game and scoring a bunch of touchdowns. He ain't that Zeke anymore, but if you look on the Patriots, he doesn't look too bad. Serviceable,
very serviceable in the game the other night. I thought he played quite well. He hurdled a guy and went in for a score.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive. Yeah.
And I think because, Tony Pollard's not that big, think about it, 12 carries for 38 yards. Zeke could have barreled through that guy. He could have barreled through the defender to score that touchdown. Instead, Dak fumbles the ball on a handoff to a fullback, which led to the fumble, and that was 7 points right off the board. So for me, the defense really, for the Dallas defense, they only allowed 22 points. They allowed one offensive touchdown. One singular offensive touchdown. So, you know what? Whoever was playing, I think like the fantasy football
the
finals.
problem, though, is they didn't come up big when they needed to at the end. They needed to stop them on that last drive. They would have won the game, and they didn't.
And what's weird is this might not make a lot of sense to people, but hear me out for a second. I think two things could be true. One, if you take a look at this team, I don't think Miami was the better team that day. I really don't. Because of the fact that they only scored one offensive touchdown. If whoever had Jason Sanders on your fantasy team, I think he put up like 22 fantasy points. He had 5 field goals and 1 extra point. So they were taking away touchdowns and forcing field goals. And I'll also say this. I do not think Miami was the better team that day. And I think the Cowboys played okay. I'm not throwing my stock away. Not throwing my stock. This looks terrible. It looks terrible. If they're on the road, I'm very fearful. But I also think if they were at home, they would destroy Miami. Destroy them. Because look at how they played. Tua really couldn't do much. There were bits of pieces. Stephon Gilmore had a bad game. He got cooked. I think he gave up like 4 catches for 80-something yards. He did not have a good game. And I think, realistically, while I say I'm not throwing my stock away, if you take a look at the standings, Dallas would play Tampa at Tampa. And the way Baker's playing, if we were in the wild card round, if it was this weekend and we were making our picks, right now, currently, I would pick Tampa to beat Dallas.
Well, they played him last year in the first round of the playoffs, and Dallas won.
Yeah, well, Brady, that was Brady lost a couple of his offensive linemen. It was his.
Had no running game.
I'm mortified. It was Tom Brady looked like Mac Jones this year in his last season, except
come on, not that bad. I mean, he had 5,000 yards passing.
Not that season.
No, the last season, I think he did have 5,000 yards.
2021,
he set a record
50,
for attempts. I know that.
It was attempts and completions, but I think he might have had 4,500 yards.
Well, he had a lot of yards.
Before, he had
a pretty good
yards.
passing season, yeah.
But he just, the production wasn't there. That was Brady's first losing season. So I think the Cowboys are going to be okay if they're at home. If they're at home. That's the big caveat for me. If they're at home, I'll believe in them tenfold.
Yeah, well, they aren't going to be, probably.
Right.
They're going to be playing on probably Tampa Bay.
And that's where I'm fearful of. Yeah. Now, they play the Lions at home this week, and I think that's going to be a pretty difficult pick. But just based on how Dallas plays, and this is how we do it, they get embarrassed because they lost to Miami in excruciating fashion, a 57-yard field goal. I'm probably going to take Dallas to win this game on Saturday night. And then they're at Commanders.
I thought Dallas lost on the Miami field goal was a short field goal.
It may have been.
It was like a 15-yard field goal. But still,
though, you lost to the Dolphins. You lost on a game-winning field goal. You gave up one offensive touchdown and you somehow lost. So you could take embarrassing, maybe not.
You gave up more yards, 375 to 339.
I think the Cowboys were the better team. They lost,
Miami,
and I'm going to take
Miami.
Detroit.
They made a mistake. They went for it on 4th down,
right,
down near the goal line. They marched the ball up and down the field the whole game, Nate, and they couldn't get into the end zone.
That's my point.
But they did get 5 field goals,
correct,
and they did win the game. They wound up winning the game. That's what matters most.
I'm not selling my stock yet. This hurts. This loss hurts because it's just another, ding in the Cowboys' motivation and my faith in them. So I still think Dallas was the better team because the defense, yes, I agree that they moved up and down. Tua nearly had 300 yards passing, but they were turning potential touchdowns into field goals. And I'll also say this. As soon as Dallas scored, I think there was, 3 minutes left in the game on the final drive, I thought Miami would win. Because there was too much time, and Mike McDaniel and Tua, they are too technical. They're too good with the technical aspect of it, because I think Mike McDaniel is a phenomenal offensive coach. I expected the Dolphins to win. If the Cowboys pulled out with that win, I'd be surprised. So you
picked them to win.
I did pick them to win. But at that time, as soon as Dallas scored with 3.5 minutes remaining in the game, I expected the Dolphins to win.
Really?
Because I trusted that Mike McDaniel would play conservative enough where Tua's not making a dumb mistake. And I'll say this about Tua. The amount of open throws that he missed. Overthrows, too far right, too far left, over the head. He did not have a great game. He missed a lot of throws. 3rd down throws were too far right on an out route. It was not a great game for him. But
no, his percentage completion was pretty good, 24-37.
That's not bad. But I think a lot of those were, just poor throws. Very poor throws. And the Dallas defense also, I'll say this about them. I don't agree with you that they were the cause for this loss. In big games against pretty good teams, they come up pretty small. Eagles for the past couple seasons. 49ers the past couple seasons. The Dolphins this season.
Well, they allowed a big drive right at the end for the Dolphins to go down and kick the field goal that won the game. So I think that the Cowboys' defense was the problem there at the end.
Not that the offense scores 40 at home and 16 on the road.
Yeah, well, they had 20 points. They had 20.
So just because they scored 20. A little bit over their average on the road, you're saying?
Well, they had 20. They had the lead. They were leading 20-19, and they couldn't stop the Dolphins. Dolphins went right down the field. Dolphins kicked the winning field goal with and the time ran out when they kicked it.
Right.
So, they didn't leave. Thought maybe the Cowboys, they were using their timeouts, thinking they could stop them and make them kick a field goal there, and then they'd have a chance to go down and kick a field goal of their own and win the game. But it didn't work, and it was the defense that made let that happen. So
fair.
That's my point.
I'll give you that. We're going to take a break right now, but coming up, we're talking MVP. Lamar Jackson takes a substantial gap in the MVP race, but number 2 is very, very interesting. We'll talk about that. Also, the Raiders defeated the Chiefs in a weird game, a very, very strange game. Mahomes, it may have been one of his worst games. Is there any hope that the Chiefs can get back on track? And also, it looks like the Jets are bringing back the coaching staff. Is that a smart idea? We'll talk about that right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. Good to have you in on a Tuesday. Hope your holiday break has been good and will be good moving forward. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic here. So the Chiefs, what a strange game from Aiden O'Connell and the Las Vegas Raiders. They really didn't throw the ball. The last completion that Aiden O'Connell had was with about 2 minutes remaining in the first quarter, and they still came out with a pretty convincing victory. Mahomes and the Chiefs offense, 2 straight drives with 2 defensive touchdowns in favor of the Las Vegas Raiders. A pretty interesting game, to say the least. Mahomes had a pretty ugly game, 27 of 44, 288 total yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I want to know, you've talked about the poor receiving core and how you don't trust them really that much. I want to know, do you think there's anything the Chiefs could do to get them back on track into Super Bowl winning aspirations and Super Bowl winning mode?
Well, this game, you said it. It was a weird game, right? The Chiefs scored first. They looked very good going down the field. Taylor Swift was there. She was screaming, yelling, and things all looked good there, right? Then they missed a field goal, right? Then Mahomes fumbled a handoff coming around and end around there. There it is, and the touchdown, right? That was unexpected. And then he threw this pass, intercepted for pick 6.
Former Patriot Jack Jones.
Jack Jones. This is, you know what? That's the second. He did it 2 weeks in a row. 2 pick 6s.
The Chargers interception was insane. He completely jumped the route, and it was a tremendous interception. But continue. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off there.
So maybe they shouldn't have let that guy go. Yeah. They have some good defensive backs, but letting him go, the Raiders, smart move picking him up. He's played great for them. And then, Aiden O'Connell couldn't do nothing. He could not do a thing. He was 9 of 21 for 62 yards, no touchdowns. He didn't complete a pass after the first quarter,
2 minutes left in the first quarter was the last time he completed a pass.
For the whole game.
Whole game.
The thing that saved him was this guy Z White.
Zamir White, yeah.
Zamir White, 22 rushing attempts for 145 yards. That's odd for the Chiefs to give up that much yards on the ground, right? I mean, generally they're pretty good against the run. So it was a weird game. Mahomes, 27 of 44, 235 yards, 1 TD. I've said it all year long. It's their receiving core that's going to keep them from getting to the Super Bowl this year. I don't think they get there.
So you're saying there's really nothing the Chiefs could do to say, you know what? This team looks like a Super Bowl team. There's nothing they could do. There's no. I'm not gonna say
I don't know what they can
moves,
do
but
with only 2 games to go. What are they going to do? They ain't going to go out and trade for anybody. You can't trade at this point. The trade deadline long since gone.
Right.
There's nobody going to pick up on waivers to come in and play well for you with only 2 weeks to go. You got to stick with what you've got, and what you got, I don't think is going to get you to the Super Bowl in terms of wide receiver talent.
Right. So you don't think that 2 dominant victories over Jake Browning and the Bengals and then Easton Stick and the Chargers, you don't think that could create any significant enough momentum when they're right now currently sitting at 9-6 and eliminated from the first overall seed?
They just lost to the Raiders with a quarterback who did not complete a pass after the first quarter.
Yeah.
So, and they made some stupid mistakes, and Mahomes has been doing this in games, throwing interceptions.
Yeah.
Right? How many interceptions does he have now?
This season, Mahomes has 14 interceptions.
14 interceptions.
Yeah.
Not good.
Not good.
Not good. That's got to be the highest in his career, I think, right?
Yeah. It's not pretty for Mahomes this season.
Yeah, this is not his greatest season, and I just don't think they have a good defense. Not great, though. I mean, if they had a great defense, they should have beat a quarterback who only threw for 62 yards.
Right.
Right? They couldn't stop him on the ground. That was the bugaboo for them. So I would be, if I were a Chiefs fan, I'd be very worried. I don't think they've got what it takes to get to the promised land this year.
I was shocked about how great the Raiders defense was against the run, because that's what the Chiefs do. Isaiah Pacheco is probably their most explosive player this season. Travis Kelce, while yes, I acknowledge, first ballot Hall of Famer, a lot of people argue he's the greatest tight end of all time, although he can't block for anything, so you can't put him past a tremendous all-around tight end like Rob Gronkowski, who can block extremely well. So for me, it's Gronk until, there's really no time for Travis Kelce to become a phenomenal blocker. So if you talk about receiving tight end, take it. Don't care about that. Receiving tight end, even though you could argue, you have to break it down. I did a while ago. The offensive grades, Gronk is slightly higher still, but you could argue that regardless. The running game, Isaiah Pacheco has been their most explosive player, and that's really where they develop a consistent offense of him getting on the ground, getting 6-7 yards a run, and creating some sort of offense. In this game, 11 carries, 26 yards, 1 touchdown. Not really much production from them. So it needed to be Patrick Mahomes to carry him, and when you throw for 44 times, and your offense doesn't look great right now, and you're throwing to Rashee Rice, Kadarius Toney was, I don't know if Chiefs fans are breathing a sigh of relief. He was inactive for this game in case of a tipped interception, which he's prone to do this season. The receivers aren't really that great. And you really were on top of this, I think, very early on. When there was a little bit of worry, we talked about the Chiefs, and you said this receiving core really isn't all that. And I agree with you. Rashee Rice, he's a budding prospect in the league. He's interesting. There's some life there. Outside of that, you really got nothing. Travis Kelce, I don't know if it's the Taylor Swift fever. I don't know if he's distracted. I don't know what it is. Is he hurt? I'm not entirely sure. But what I see from Travis Kelce is he's not a phenomenal tight end. Right now, he's not great.
You know why, I think?
Yeah.
It's because teams have figured out that nobody else can catch the ball out there. So they're doubling. They're taking Kelce out of the game with double teams and spies on him and making the other guys beat you, and they can't.
Right.
So that's what's happened there.
Could be. Very well could be. I'm also very, very impressed. An offensive line who, in the past few seasons, at least with Derek Carr, the offensive line was ranked bottom 10 in the league in basically everything. This go around, they opened up holes for Zamir White to be tremendous. 22 carries for 145 yards, 6.6 yards a carry. That's insane, absolutely insane. And then the defense, which for the past couple seasons has been ranked 30th in the league, they had a phenomenal game. 2 defensive touchdowns. Jack Jones, I don't know if it's because he's back with Antonio Pierce, and I believe he was his high school and college coach, but he is on an absolute heater right now. He's played tremendous for them so far. So when it comes to that, and I'll say this, I don't know really if the Raiders are going to do this or are doing this currently by saying that it's an open coaching market. If I'm Mark Davis, I'm not making the same mistake I made with Rich Bisaccia. The players believed in Rich Bisaccia. They came back from a decently poor start to a season and made the playoffs. And were this close to, I believe, beating Joe Burrow in that playoff. I might be wrong about that, but they were this close to winning that first playoff game. The players, I don't know if they may believe in Antonio Pierce more than they did Rich Bisaccia. Because the way they're playing recently, they're second in the AFC West. This team was horrible with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback and Josh McDaniels as the head coach. They're second in the AFC West. So if I'm Mark Davis, I wouldn't publicly say that Antonio Pierce is my head coach, because I think that's when people would, it may be, I'm not saying that this happens, but the players are trying extremely hard. Keep it in limbo until the end of the season.
Yeah.
Until
What's the Raiders' record now?
The Raiders are currently 7-8.
So do they still have a chance to get in if they win their last two? And maybe they need some help.
The playoffs?
Yeah.
Yes, but they would need a little bit of help.
Yeah.
They would need Buffalo to start lose. They would need to win out to have a 9-8 record. They would need Indy to lose games. They would need Houston to lose games. They would need Buffalo to also lose a couple games, and then they have an opportunity.
No, but if Indy and Houston lost their last two games and the Raiders won their last two games, they probably would be in.
They'd probably be in. The last two games that they play are at Colts, so there's one.
Okay.
And then home against the Broncos. And and I think when it comes to this, Antonio Pierce, just like we talked about with Bisaccia, Pierce should be the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. These players believe in him. Mm-hmm. However, I think I don't know if he's intentionally doing this, but I think it would be smart to not publicly announce it until the end of however far the Raiders go. If they don't make the playoffs, you could announce it the week after. I don't care when. But the players are playing extremely hard right now, and I think it's one, to prove that they are a decent team, and also to prove that their head coach, Antonio Pierce, is a good head coach. So I would keep up this limbo of, oh yeah, we're looking around for other head coaches. Meanwhile, the best guy for the job, the person who the team believes in, is right there in your own building, and his name is Antonio Pierce.
Well, you may be right.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Keep it in limbo until the end of the season, so the players keep playing as hard as they are. If their
they still have a chance to
get
into the playoffs, so they should be playing hard.
Currently, Pierce has more wins than Josh McDaniels did in one fewer game. Josh McDaniels went 3-5. Antonio Pierce is 4-3, and they look better.
Yeah,
they don't look great because Aiden O'Connell is a quarterback.
They beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs are no slouch.
Well, this season you might have a difference of opinion there.
No, but I don't think they're the Chiefs are not a slouch team.
What they did to Patrick Mahomes, I'll give you. What they did in this game to Patrick Mahomes was interesting, because this was one of Mahomes' worst games maybe ever. And what I find fascinating about this Chiefs team overall is, from 2018 to 2020, Mahomes in this offense only scored 20 points or under 20 points 6 total times in that 4 or 5 year span. Mm-hmm. They've done it 7 times in this season alone.
Yeah, well, the Chiefs didn't. Mahomes was the leading rusher. He had 53 yards in the game. That was so they had no real running game. So it's you got to have a running game to balance things out.
Right.
So
that's where Pacheco comes in. What I say was his most explosive.
Didn't perform in this game. He was not nowhere.
Right, 11 carries,
26
yards. It was very, very ugly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really this is not the Chiefs' year. It doesn't look like a Super Bowl team, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they're one and done. I wouldn't be at all.
I don't think they'll make it to the Super Bowl this year.
I think it's going to be very, very difficult. They're the 4 seed. They play the 5 seed, which currently is Baltimore. I would take Baltimore to beat Kansas City in the first playoff game. 1,000% I would. Because I just think that Baltimore's defense can disrupt an offensive line.
Baltimore should get the bye, right? The Ravens.
I'm sorry. Cleveland. I meant Cleveland.
Yeah.
They play Cleveland in the first round, who's currently, I believe, the 5 seed.
I think Cleveland will give them a run for their money.
I do as well, because I think the defense of Cleveland can manipulate the 2 tackles, Jawan Taylor and would-be Donovan Smith, who was out the past couple, at least this past week. I think Myles Garrett could have a field day, and I think that could make Mahomes uncomfortable, which you see him in these games. He looks extremely uncomfortable, running to his right, running to his left, trying to make his Mahomes magic happen, and he doesn't have a guy who on a whim could go flick out and be open for 15 yards.
Plus the Browns
Kelsey was that guy. They're doubling and tripling him when the play breaks
down. They don't have to worry about the other receivers. They aren't that good. They just count on on double teaming Kelsey, and that slows down. You've seen what it's done to the Chiefs' offense. It's not what it used to be,
Right,
by a long shot. And the Browns, they found something with Joe Flacco,
and that's
right,
surprising.
throwing those big rainbow long passes, man.
Yeah,
that's what he's good at. And he's made Amari Cooper look like a world beater.
Yeah. David Njoku also has life. He went from the 10th tight end in fantasy to now the 2nd in fantasy. So Joe Flacco has had a revival of his career. And you know what? Good for him. He was sitting on a couch like 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, right.
And now he's out here winning football games for the Cleveland Browns and looks like the 2012
It makes you
Joe
wonder
Flacco.
what the Jets were thinking about with their offense when they had Flacco. He didn't play that well with them. It must have been the offense. Because,
Well, he started off, I think, he may have been. He was near like first in the league. I think he was third in the league in passing yards for the first couple weeks.
Then they benched him.
They benched him, yeah.
And then Wilson was in there, played terrible, and then they brought him back, and he was terrible when they brought him back.
I think that was poor offensive line. We're seeing now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy for Joe Flacco because what's crazy about this Browns team is they've had 4 quarterbacks and they're 10-5.
Yeah.
They have, if you take a look at just records at the AFC, they have the 3rd best record in the AFC.
I'd say their coach.
It's only because Baltimore is so good.
The coach gets a lot of credit this year. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of Cleveland, I must say. I never have been. But I give the coach some credit this year. He's managed it quite well. 4 different quarterbacks and finding Joe Flacco and having Flacco perform the way he has the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's really been quite remarkable.
I'll say this. The Browns are, if the Browns were in any other division in the AFC, they would be the leader in 2 out of the 4 divisions, and very close to be the leader in 3. They're 1 game behind Miami. If the Browns were in the AFC East,
The season isn't over yet.
They would be huge favorites.
Who do they have in the last 2 games?
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Cleveland has in the last 2 games currently at a 10-5 record. Home against the Jets, at Bengals. Those are 2 wins right there.
Should be.
We're going to talk about the Thursday game after this. After a couple topics.
So they'll have 12 wins.
Yeah. So they're going to be 12 wins. I'm not saying Lamar falls.
Should make them the 2 seed, I would think, right?
Well, they would need to lead their division if that's the case.
No, but they should be the 2.
Baltimore right now leads the division. So
that's right.
They would
but
need to
can't
pass.
they can't be the 2 seed?
No.
No,
because the division winner gets the top 4. Each of the division win. Because think about it, Brady and the Bucks wouldn't be number 4.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So they'll be the 5 seed.
5 seed. Yeah, and they have a pretty Buffalo is like 1 game behind them. So I have a lot of faith that if the Ravens lose the last 2, Cleveland I believe would win the AFC North. Which if the Browns win the AFC North with Joe Flacco, give him comeback player of the year. Because what he did with the Browns, Baker Mayfield didn't do it. Deshaun Watson didn't look like he could do it. DTR damn sure couldn't do it. PJ Walker absolutely couldn't do it. Joe Flacco comes in. Amari Cooper becomes phenomenal. David Njoku's getting a bunch of touches. Like, give credit to Kevin Stefanski. Give massive credit to Joe Flacco for coming off the couch and doing this. It's insane. But I do want to talk about this next topic, which is pretty fascinating. So, a report out by, I believe, the New York Post says that Woody Johnson, who is the owner of the Jets, is expected to bring back head coach Robert Saleh as well as GM Joe Douglas, and probably bringing back OC Nathaniel Hackett.
Unbelievable.
You never learn from your mistakes if you're the New York Jets. I want to know, do you think is this a good or a bad move for Woody Johnson to bring back the OC, head coach, and general manager?
Well, I think they're thinking that this is the crew they had when they managed to trade for Aaron Rodgers, and they want to keep things stable when he comes back next year, even though he'll be 40 years old and playing on one wheel with that ACL. I mean, with the Achilles tendon tear. So I think Woody ought to take a look at the data a little bit. Saleh, 17-32 in 3 years. Joe Douglas, 26-65. 26-65.
As the GM.
That is horrible.
That's his team record?
That's horrible. Why would they hang on to him? I don't get it. I mean, Woody said, well, they've done a lot to improve the culture and of the team. They've improved on defense a lot. They're missing just a couple pieces on offense. We think we can get it done next year. Well, that's what they said last year. And of course, having Aaron Rodgers get hurt was a huge blow. And but they should have had a better backup quarterback. That maybe if they'd had a better backup quarterback, they'd still be fighting for a playoff spot. But as it is right now, they're out of it, and they're going to bring back all these guys again. The New York media is roasting them over this, and particularly Joe Beningo and the fan. He said they all should have been fired, the whole coaching staff, get rid of them all and start over again. And now they're just sticking with the status quo. So what do you think?
Well, when you take a look at looking at head coaches and whether or not they've been successes so far, the first thing you got to look at is, did they get their specialty right? Brandon Staley could never get the Chargers defense right. He was there a year too long. As soon as they choked against the Jaguars, I said, we may or may not have talked about it. I would need to go through the archives of the Harvey Hour. But at least in my heart and in my mind, I thought, you choke, you're a defensive coach, you did great in the first half and then completely fall apart. You're way too aggressive in unnecessary situations. You should be fired. And he was brought back. That was a bad idea. We see this year, nothing is going right. Offense underwhelming. Defense was, for 99% of the season, dead last in passing. I mean, overall, it was just a bad season. And so, Brandon Staley got fired. However, I believe going into the season, the Chargers were probably the hottest job that you can get. Because the amount of potential there, just need to get the right coach. Did the Jets get their side of the ball correct? Well, in the first season of Robert Saleh, they went 4-13. However, they just came off of Adam Gase as their head coach. Adam Gase was abysmal. Let's be honest here. Adam Gase was absolutely terrible. So the next season, in Robert Saleh's, let's say, his first legitimate shot, how did they do? Well, the New York Jets that season, and I'll bring it up for us right now, was 4th in the league. This season, the offense once again is terrible, but this season, they're 3rd. So he's getting his side of the ball correct. Robert Saleh, I think keep him. Keep him. What you need is, you don't need Nathaniel Hackett. You got him because of Rodgers.
Yeah, well, Rodgers is coming back next year.
You got Cobb because of Rodgers. You got Lazard.
Rodgers is coming back next year.
Right. At some point, and you know what? This is where we fall into a trap. Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. And so, if you value who he has been, the Packers recently, you'll let Rodgers do whatever the hell he wants to, and he has massive influence on the decisions you make for your franchise. In not even a full season, Rodgers completely changed the outlook of this franchise. Before he even got there. Who did they get before Rodgers? Lazard. Trade away Elijah Moore. You got in McCole Hardman. You try to get, reportedly, Mercedes Lewis Rodgers wanted. Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb. You try to get one of the Packers' offensive linemen as well, reportedly that they wanted.
They probably should have tried harder to do that because their offensive line is horrible.
So, you literally just built this team. This is not the New York Jets. This is the New York Rodgers. That's all it is right now. Now you need to figure out if it's in the draft, whatever the case may be. If Joe Douglas is going to stay on the Jets, if Woody Johnson's going to bring him back, don't build this team for a 40-year-old quarterback who's coming off of an Achilles injury. Build it for the next year. Because Rodgers, depending on how the season looks, if they go 7-10, 8-9, even though Rodgers keeps saying, I'm playing for this season and beyond, he was 90% retired before he went to the darkness retreat. And that's what the Packers, because they went 8-9 that season. Build for the future and not for Rodgers in his potentially last season in the NFL. Because last year, not the 2023 draft, but the 2022 draft, the one with Brees Hall, Sauce Gardner, and that plethora of insane talent, nearly every pick was a hit. This season, you had a couple misses. So, build for the future. I'm fine with bringing back Saleh. I'm fine with bringing back Douglas as long as they have an idea for the future, not for Rodgers' last season. Nathaniel Hackett, on the other hand, I know Packer connection with Rodgers. He's not a good offensive coordinator. I would get rid of him. Personally, for me, he would be. I would fire him if I'm Woody Johnson.
He's not going to do that.
Failure as a head coach, failure as a first-year OC with the Jets. It hasn't looked pretty. Zach Wilson looks a bit. He had 1 or 2 games where it's like, oh, there's something there, and then just the rest is garbage. So the Robert Saleh,
they're all going to be
side
back.
of the ball right.
They're all going to be back. And Bill Belichick got his side of the ball right too. Right, their defense is better than the Jets.
Well, here's the thing: Robert Saleh doesn't draft players. That's Joe Douglas.
Yeah, well, Joe Douglas, 26 and 65, and they're bringing him back.
Look at the past 2 seasons.
I mean, why wouldn't they let him go? I don't get it.
The past.
Why
2
wouldn't
seasons,
they let the GM go?
The past 2 seasons, Robert Saleh's first season, they went 7-10. They went 7-10 in Saleh's. I'm calling first legitimate shot because he went 4-13 the first year, but that was with Adam Gase's remnants.
Yeah, well, he did it with Zach, no quarterback too. So maybe Saleh is
I would say
salvageable.
Fine. Yeah, he's fine. Just get a better OC.
I don't think he's fine, but I think he deserves one more chance. I mean, he's not much of a leader. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has really been the leader of the Jets this year.
Well, that's what
right?
Yeah, before he even got there, he was changing the culture.
Saleh is the head coach, and it was Rodgers that was making the most noise and getting the most coverage about his commentary about how the team was doing and what they should do to make things better. I don't get it. That's screwed up, I must say.
Well, that's why I say this team is not the New York Jets. It's the New York Rodgers. Because before he even got there, the Jets were making moves in favor of him. Yeah. They didn't even get the guy yet. So
they're set with this same crew, and the record shows that it's not a winning formula so far.
Well, I'll say
not a winning formula. When you play in the NFL, you play to win. That's what it's all about. It's a business. You're there to win, and these guys have not done it.
Well, I feel, at some point the Jets have to learn from their mistakes. It's been what?
Well, they're not learning yet. Woody is bringing them all back, the same crowd.
It's been, 60 years since they made and won a Super Bowl? You'd hope sometime someone...
No, they haven't even made it back to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Let alone win it. They haven't even gotten back to it.
And I'm just thinking, when are they going to get a consistent quarterback? Rodgers, he's played 75 seconds. And next season, at 40 years old, coming off an Achilles... You're going to put the franchise in his hands?
Well, we'll see who the backup
first
is.
First ballot Hall of Fame quarterback.
It'll be interesting to see who the backup's going to be, right? They better go out and find somebody who's a really serviceable backup because, I mean, Rodgers on one wheel at 40 years old, he might only be in there another 75 seconds before he's done for another year. So they better have somebody that can come in and actually, move them down the field.
Knowing the Jets and their QB history, Zach Wilson will be the backup quarterback next season.
If they do that, that will be there'll be a mutiny. The New York media will be apoplectic. The fan will be like, the smoke will be coming right out of the radio. Those guys will be so mad.
It's the Jets. I mean, really, would you be surprised if Rob?
I would be surprised if Zach Wilson is the backup quarterback next year.
So you're saying they're just going to get rid of him? He's done. I
think so, and I think he'll want to be out of there. I think
if I'm Zach Wilson, I would want to be out of there
if
too.
I were him, I'd want to be out of there. The way they've treated him, I mean, he's got maligned in the media. He's been starting and benched and starting and benched and starting and benched. Yeah. He's been hurt. He comes back. They play him. He plays terrible. They bench him. They put him back in. They tell him that, you know what, you're doing great, everything, and then they bench him. If I were him, I'd say I want to try somewhere else, and I think I think it's fair.
No,
I think it'll be a mutual parting of the ways this year, and then they got to go find a serviceable backup in case Rodgers can't play more than 75 seconds next year. Okay.
But hold on, I completely agree with whatever you just. I completely agree with it.
Okay, good.
But here's the kicker: 3 words. It's the Jets.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot.
Yeah, well, they've got a checkered past, that's for sure. Very checkered. And whether they can break the mold or not, it may take a change of ownership because Woody, I think he's kind of asleep at the switch. He needs to look at the data here. Joe Douglas, 26 wins, 65 losses as GM. That's a long stretch. He's been there a long time.
He was with Adam Gase. They did not get a lot of talent when Adam Gase was the head coach there. The past 2 drafts, I would say the past 2 drafts, they did really good in the first one, and then this past year they were okay, not great. 2 years ago they hit on basically every pick. So I don't know, but it's the Jets.
They're going to have a high draft pick this year too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean the last game of the season, Last game of the season will be the last place bowl, probably. It'll be the Patriots and the Jets fighting it out to see who winds up last in the division. So, that might be a game we want to go see.
Well, that would mean the Jets would need to lose this week, and then the Patriots. Well, I know the Patriots would have. Ooh, I would need to look at the tiebreaker. If the Patriots lose to the Jets, then I think the Patriots are gonna be fine. The Patriots are so bad that they'll probably maintain the last in the AFC East. But I do want to talk about, though, is this MVP race, because maybe not surprisingly to a lot of people, the odds have moved drastically. This is the updated MVP odds by FanDuel. Lamar Jackson's -170, Christian McCaffrey at +450, Tua Tagovailoa at +1,000, Brock Purdy and Josh Allen tied for fourth at +1,300. Lamar takes the jump from +5 to -170, +500 to -170. CMC goes from fifth to second, a massive jump from last week. I want to know. You said Brock Purdy deserves to be MVP. We've talked about it for about 2-3 weeks. Brock Purdy's the MVP. We saw what happened
I'm surprised
yesterday.
he's even on the chart now after last night's game.
Well, Dak Prescott, if he won, Dak would probably be up there as well. But Dak lost, so that killed his chances. Do you think there is any chance Brock Purdy puts himself ahead of everybody else at the favorite to be the NFL MVP?
No, because Here's why. I think now San Francisco's worried, right? With that performance last night, they know they can't bench him. It's too late in the season for that, and that would send all kinds of crazy vibes through the team if they did something like that, because he's well-liked on the team. I'm sure they're questioning whether he's going to be able to deliver for them now, because he had that tough stretch midway through the season, and then last night he played terrible. So I think Christian McCaffrey may have a chance to catch Lamar Jackson, because I think in the last 2 games they're going to play very conservative, run the ball a lot with him, and see how that goes. And if he performs and scores a bunch of touchdowns and has a couple hundred yards of offense, catching and running the ball, he might catch Lamar. But I think it's a very slim chance, and I do think Lamar will get it now.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised in the least, because if you take a look at the odds, it shows who's the most valuable player. Take those words into consideration. Most valuable player. I talked about this, last week, and I got grilled on it because I say Christian McCaffrey is the most valuable piece on that offense. It's not Brock Purdy. And then we go to this game. I love the fact that this game turned out the way it did, because it showed exactly what I was talking about. Purdy was losing them that game. 4 interceptions. 1 in the red zone when they're driving early after the defense forced a 3-and-out on Lamar. Forced them to punt. Brock Purdy comes up, drive him down the field on the 15-yard line. Oh, interception. And it was a bad interception. And you know what? Let's show the interception. Why don't we? This was that interception. 1st and 10 on the 15. Right to the guy. It was a bad interception.
Coverage there, too. I mean, look, there were two guys
He stared at him too long. Yeah. That was the problem. He stared. The guy on the right didn't even check the guy on the right.
Should have gone to Ayuk. He was more open over on the left side.
And that's what I find interesting about it. When Sam Darnold was in there, sorry about that. When Sam Darnold was in there, he was targeting Ayuk so much more. Ayuk was starting to get targets and receptions.
Yeah, well, Sam Darnold threw an interception too, and I would not go to him.
I'm not going. I'm not saying that.
We watched him at the Jets and see how he performs.
Oh, he was surrounded by ghosts. He didn't know what was going on.
He's not the answer, that's for sure. And particularly this late in the season,
right.
Disrupt the team, put him in there. You're not going much anywhere. I don't think you're better off sticking with Brock Purdy. Lean on McCaffrey heavier, and that may pull you through. We'll see. Might get you to the Super Bowl. We'll see.
Right, and I think.
But then you're going to be there. I bet Lamar is going to be there too, and then it will be a repeat of this game last night. Maybe, I don't know. And
we've seen in the past couple of seasons what repeats do. The guy who loses wins the next go around. Bills and Chiefs, Eagles and Chiefs. The Cowboys 49ers was the only one that was consistent. Cowboys Eagles. The Cowboys eventually won. So maybe in the rematch, the 49ers get the upper hand. But like I was mentioning, this game turned out exactly not how I expected, but the game displayed everything I was talking about. Because it showed that when Brock Purdy was losing the game, it wasn't a complete offensive collapse. Christian McCaffrey still had over 100 yards on the day. And when Brock Purdy was the quarterback, had the only touchdown the offense had. Because that's how good CMC is. So,
Darnold had a touchdown, too.
But I'm talking about when Purdy was the quarterback.
Oh.
CMC was the only one who had a touchdown when Purdy was the quarterback. It was, 6 minutes remaining when Darnold went out there?
Yeah.
And it got interesting. He scored a touchdown. I'm like, okay. And then they started to drive a little bit. I never thought they would win.
They
but
stalled. They took way too long.
I thought it was interesting. And here's the thing. Would your mind change really about if Sam Darnold might be I'm going to make this very, very clear. I still think Purdy should be the starting quarterback. I don't think the 49ers are a terrible team or even a bad team. If you take a look at the roster, it's still stacked.
Last week we were saying they're the best team in the NFL.
I would still put them in number 2. I would still put them in number 2 because their roster literally still has no holes. It's just Lamar Jackson is a one of one. He is a Michael Vick, but so much better. A better runner, better thrower. He's just a better athlete all around.
His throwing ability has improved
Todd
a lot.
Monken and this offensive scheme has been incredible.
And the wide receiver core is very good, too.
Right. And what I want to bring up is this was John Harbaugh in the postgame discussing Lamar's performance. Take a listen.
I thought Lamar had an MVP performance tonight. It takes a team to create a performance like that, but it takes a player to play at that level. To play at an MVP level, it takes a player to play that way. And Lamar was all over the field doing everything. He operated a pretty complicated game plan. I thought Todd and the coaches deserve a lot of credit for the game plan. Lamar operated. He made decisions on the field. And then just keeping plays alive, trusting his offensive line. The offensive line was outstanding with the protection. Lamar trusted those guys. He kept plays alive. He moved in the pocket. He created space for the coverage guys. Our guys did a great job of scramble drill, of getting open. I think we had a new number of plays that were extended, that were big plays for us. So just a complete game by Lamar.
And I don't think right now anyone would argue that Lamar Jackson deserves to be MVP. But there's a couple plays I want to highlight when it comes to this game. The first one would be, and I mentioned it earlier on the show, that 3rd and 18 run. Because while Lamar doesn't run as much as he did, he is still incredibly dangerous.
This was amazing.
A 3rd and 16.
Oh, no, this isn't the one I'm
going to show another one.
Oh, no, I think
a
it is.
3rd and 16. He goes 30 yards.
Amazing.
And then, hold on, another play I want to talk about is what I mentioned earlier, where he looks like he's going to go in the pocket. Dre Greenlaw takes the running bait, throws it to Gus Edwards. He goes 41 yards up the field. Late in the game, only up by 4. These are massive plays, and this is because Lamar, look, Dre Greenlaw takes the bait of Lamar running, leaves Gus Edwards open. Goodbye, Gus Edwards, for a 40-yard gain. Lamar is extremely dangerous, and because he has both an incredible running ability and his passing game has improved significantly, so much so that it's a pretty good threat right now. Uh-huh. Lamar, I think, is unquestionably the MVP, and really, unless the Ravens had a cataclysmic collapse, Lamar should be the MVP. And this isn't, it's the best quarterback on the best team. No. Lamar is the leading rusher, leading passer. The only thing he can't do is throw it to himself and become his own leading receiver. But if that was somehow possible, it wouldn't shock me if Lamar could do it.
Yeah.
Because he's just so talented all around.
Yeah, well, I remember back when he was out there fighting for his contract, there was some question in our minds about whether he was ever going to be a great passer.
Right.
And he's kind of proven that he can be.
100%.
With the right coaching and the right receiving core, he's really stepped up there. And he throws darts. I mean, he's like laser beams. Yeah. He's got a very strong arm. And he's quite accurate with it, too. So I agree with you. I think he's the MVP. There's only 2 games left. They make the pick on the MVP without playoff games, so it's the regular season that determines that. I think he wins.
I really think it's his to lose. Now, unless Christian McCaffrey goes out and starts breaking rushing records.
Yeah, well, he might, because I think they're going to get ready for the playoffs, and they're going to feature him more because he's been the player that has scored for them and has not made mistakes.
Right.
And they're going to try to not put Brock Purdy in a position where he can make a lot of mistakes. So I think McCaffrey's going to get more touches.
Right. And I feel like this is one of the most unique years we've ever seen for an MVP. No one's 5,000 yards. No one's 50 touchdowns. No one's breaking rushing records or near it. No one's breaking rushing touchdown records. No one's doing anything that is so far past anybody else. Dak, Tua, and Purdy. A lot of the numbers are pretty close, besides Purdy's yards per attempt. But still, though, you're not going to win MVP off of one stat. Dak, Tua, and Purdy, all the numbers are relatively close. So much so that you might be able to argue that they're just a wash. That you can't say, oh, Purdy's so good because he has more receiving yards. Oh, but Dak has a better touchdown yards. Like that, you can nitpick here and there. Christian McCaffrey is having a significantly better season than basically any other running back. The touchdowns, him and Raheem Mostert are tremendous, both of them. But if we're talking about like rushing and total scrimmage yards, McCaffrey has that.
No, McCaffrey has a lot of receiving yards.
Right,
too.
right. But when it comes to just value to a team, McCaffrey is up there 1,000%, and Lamar, he's been doing that, except late in the season, when his team needs him for a playoff push, he gets hurt. So we haven't been able to continue that, dependency on Lamar's talents as this year where he's healthy.
I think last night separated Lamar from the pack.
1,000% I agree with you. So Lamar's MVP right now. Purdy's dropped from first, heavy first, minus 200 and plus 500, then all the way down to tied for fourth at plus 1,300. Lamar takes that first spot at minus 170, while CMC, I'm surprised the bettors put him that high at only plus 450. Plus 450. Fascinating. All right, let's get into our final topic here. We always do this every single Tuesday. We discuss the Thursday night game. This time we're talking Jets at Browns. Browns are favored by minus 7 points. Joe Flacco is playing his old team, or one of his old teams, his most recent former team, the New York Jets. He's having a phenomenal season this year. I will make the first one. The question is, will Trevor Siemian upset the Browns on Thursday night? I'm going with absolutely not. No chance in hell. I will take the Cleveland Browns to win, in a pretty decent win. 28-14, 14-point win. I think the way Joe Flacco's been playing so far this season has been absolutely incredible. Him and Amari Cooper they have a great connection, only with a couple weeks playing with each other. David Njoku's getting the touches he deserves, and I think, you know what, he's playing phenomenally so far with Joe Flacco. The emphasis that they have on Joe Flacco doing the deep ball, 300 yards passing, it's incredible to watch. He's up there as actually one of the oldest quarterbacks to throw 3 straight games of 300 or more yards. Joe Flacco, we're seeing like 2012 playoff version of Joe Flacco here. Now, my only concern is playoff time. What will happen? That's where I'm a little bit nervous. The running game is pretty effective as well. The defense is the main emphasis here. I'll take Trevor Siemian to make a few mistakes since Zach Wilson's out. I'll take the Browns to win and cover 28-14. That is my pick. Your pick is?
I'm taking the Browns as well. I think there's a chance. I picked
Browns, not Rams, but continue. Sorry.
What's that?
Rams in the lower third, but keep going.
I'm picking the Browns to win 24-7.
Yeah.
I think it could beat them even worse. I think Joe Flacco's going to come in there and just smoke the Jets.
You don't think the defense could get to Flacco?
Well, that's the only thing. The Jets have a pretty good defense, so maybe they slow him down a little bit. But they've got the offense is perfect for Joe Flacco. He's got the good wide receivers out there. He's throwing the ball deep, and that's what he does best. And they do have pretty good running backs too. So, and the defense is lights out. So I think they beat the Jets pretty easily in this game.
All right. That's our Thursday picks. Thank you for tuning to this episode of the Harvey Hour. The next episode is on the 29th. So after that, it's 2024, brand new year, brand new Harvey Hour. Stay tuned. Friday, we're starting early. So keep a lookout for when the Harvey Hour will be live. We have a new thing we're bringing in. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the co-hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us a Friday early time. Something special's happening. So catch us on Friday at a particular time that I haven't determined yet. It's on me. But yeah, Friday right here on YouTube.
Hi, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.